Supergirl has inspired a wide range of statues and busts over the years, with each piece capturing a different look, era, or interpretation of the character. In this video, we're continuing the checklist with 10 more Supergirl collectibles, taking a closer look at the designs that help make up her growing presence in the world of statues and busts. The first piece in this lineup is the Supergirl Bishoujo statue, a stylized interpretation that presents the character through Kotobukiya's distinctive Bishoujo design approach. Rather than aiming for realism, the statue leans into a softer, more animated look, giving Supergirl a youthful, energetic presence while still keeping the classic blue, red, and gold costume elements instantly recognizable. The pose gives the statue a light sense of motion, with Supergirl balancing above a cloud-like base as her cape rises dramatically behind her. That flowing cape adds a lot of visual energy to the composition, while the turned posture and expressive face make the piece feel playful and quick rather than heavy or aggressive. It's a version of Supergirl that feels fast, agile, and full of personality. An extra layer of charm comes from the inclusion of Streaky the Supercat, who appears alongside Supergirl wearing his own little red cape. That detail gives the statue a more whimsical, companion-driven feel and helps separate it from more straightforward, heroic poses. Altogether, this is a highly stylized collectible that presents Supergirl in a fun, animated, and very character-driven way. Next up is the evil Supergirl Bishoujo statue, which takes the same stylized approach, but shifts the tone into something much darker. This version presents Supergirl with an edgier, more aggressive look, using a black costume with silver accents while still keeping the familiar design elements that tie her back to the classic character. The pose mirrors the original Bishoujo version, but the attitude is completely different. Instead of a light, playful expression, this version features a more intense and confrontational stance, with a sharper facial expression and a sense of forward motion that feels more forceful. The flowing cape still adds movement, but now it enhances the darker tone of the piece. Even Streaky the Supercat is reimagined here, appearing with a darker cape to match the alternate version of Supergirl. This statue stands out as a striking counterpart to the original, offering collectors a more villainous or alternate universe interpretation while maintaining the same dynamic composition and stylized aesthetic. Next is the Supergirl Returns Bishoujo statue, which revisits the character with a slightly more refined and confident presentation. While still maintaining the signature Bishoujo style, this version shifts the tone away from motion and into a more grounded, heroic stance, giving Supergirl a stronger sense of presence and control. The pose is more upright and composed, with one hand resting at her side and the other placed on her hip. Her cape flows outward behind her, adding movement without overpowering the figure. The sculpt emphasizes clean lines and balance, making this version feel more like a definitive, standing interpretation of the character. This statue highlights Supergirl in a more classic, heroic moment, calm, confident, and ready. Compared to earlier Bishoujo versions, it feels more centered and composed, offering collectors a version of Supergirl that blends stylized design with a more traditional superhero stance. Next is the Dark Supergirl Returns Bishoujo statue, an alternate version that takes the same composed stance as the standard Returns edition, but shifts the tone into a darker direction. This version replaces the classic blue costume with a black and silver color scheme, immediately giving the figure a more intense and alternate universe feel. The pose remains confident and balanced, with Supergirl standing upright, one hand at her hip and the other raised slightly near her shoulder. The flowing red cape continues to add motion behind her, but against the darker costume, it creates a stronger visual contrast that draws more attention to the figure. This version presents Supergirl with a more serious and commanding presence. As a darker counterpart to the standard Return statue, it offers collectors a variation that keeps the same elegant composition while exploring a more edgy and alternate interpretation of the character. Next is the Women of the DC Universe Supergirl bust from DC Direct, designed by Adam Hughes, which presents a very different take on the character. Instead of a full heroic pose, this piece focuses on a more character-driven moment, capturing Supergirl in a mid-transformation look as she reveals the iconic S emblem beneath her outer clothing. The design leans into a classic secret identity concept, with Supergirl wearing a blouse and skirt while pulling the shirt open to show the costume underneath. The pose is subtle but expressive, with a finger raised to her lips, adding a sense of personality and playfulness that sets it apart from more action-focused statues. This bust emphasizes character over action, offering a snapshot of Supergirl between her everyday identity and her role as a hero. It stands out as a more narrative-driven collectible, focusing on that transition moment rather than power or motion, making it a unique addition to Supergirl statue and bust collections. Next is the DC Comics Superheroes Supergirl bust from DC Collectibles, designed by Jim Lee, which presents a clean, modern take on the character. This piece focuses on a more streamlined and simplified design, capturing Supergirl in a classic blue suit with the red and yellow S emblem prominently displayed across her chest. The pose adds a sense of motion, with one arm raised as if mid-flight or preparing to take off. That forward angle gives the bust a dynamic feel, even within a smaller format. The shorter hairstyle and smooth sculpting help give this version a contemporary look compared to more traditional interpretations. The base features the iconic Superman S shield, tying the piece directly to the broader Superman family. Overall, this bust delivers a straightforward and recognizable version of Supergirl, focusing on clean design, bold colors, and a balanced mix of motion and simplicity for collectors. Next is the Superman the Animated Series Supergirl bust from Diamond Select, released in 2015. This piece brings Supergirl into the distinct visual style of the animated series, with simplified shapes, bold colors, and clean lines that immediately reflect the look of the DC animated universe. The design features Supergirl with her classic animated appearance, including the cropped top, red cape, and bright color palette. Her pose is confident and slightly playful, with one arm bent and the other set at her side, capturing the personality and attitude she displayed in the series. The sculpt leans into that animated aesthetic, with sharp lines, smooth surfaces, and expressive facial features. For collectors, this bust stands out as a faithful representation of Supergirl from the animated era, offering a different style compared to more realistic comic-based statues and busts. Next is the Women of the DC Universe Series 2 Supergirl bust from DC Direct, designed by Terry Dodson, which presents a more dynamic and action-driven take on the character. Unlike earlier busts that focus on subtle expression, this version brings a sense of motion and strength into the sculpt. The pose shows Supergirl gripping a bent metal bar, emphasizing her super strength in a clear and visual way. Her expression is confident and focused, while the flowing hair and cape add movement to the piece. The design leans more into action, giving the bust a stronger sense of energy. The base features angular, stylized elements that complement the pose without distracting from the figure. Overall, this bust stands out for highlighting Supergirl's power, offering a more action-oriented interpretation compared to more static or character-focused versions. Next up is the Women of the DC Universe Series 3 Supergirl bust, designed by Amanda Connor and released by DC Direct. This piece brings a more modern, energetic interpretation of Supergirl, combining classic elements with a slightly more playful and confident tone. What immediately stands out is the dynamic pose. Supergirl is shown breaking free from chains, symbolizing strength and resilience. Her expression carries a subtle smile, giving the piece personality while still reinforcing her power. The flowing hair and cape add motion and visual impact. The sculpt features clean lines and bold colors with a detailed base that complements the action without overpowering the figure. Overall, this bust captures both Supergirl's strength and spirit, making it one of the more expressive and modern interpretations in the Women of the DC Universe line. And finally, we have the DC Comics Bombshells Supergirl bust from DC Collectibles, a completely unique take on the character inspired by retro pinup art and World War II era aesthetics. This piece stands out immediately from the rest with its bold, vintage style. Supergirl is reimagined here as a confident, all-American heroine, dressed in a military-inspired uniform complete with cap and flowing scarf. Her expression is warm and upbeat, capturing a sense of optimism and charm that fits perfectly with the Bombshells theme. The sculpt features smooth lines, vibrant colors, and a clean presentation, with a base that includes classic Bombshells branding. As a closing piece, this bust offers something completely different, celebrating Supergirl not just as a hero, but as an icon of style and personality. If you enjoyed this look at Supergirl statues and busts, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and check out the links in the description to add these pieces to your collection. And let us know in the comments, which Supergirl is your favorite?